The time for silence is over. All right, so I've missed a little bit of chat. What about Trump's lawyer that got his house vandalized and death threats against him and his family? I'm against death threats and I'm against vandalization of houses. Integration certainly wasn't some egalitarian process, but blacks and whites lived in the same home. I think I'm a little bit out of the loop on that one. Conundrum looks like he's going on about the Democratic side. I am okay with Antifa, which is pro-Marx, and the implementation of Marxism. No. Antifa, anybody who shows up at a rally that opposes fascist is by definition anti-fascist. There's not some national leader. There's not some like ranks you can move up in Antifa. I mean, hell, if you want to go by the anti-fascist definition, all the soldiers, United States soldiers who landed on the beaches in Normandy back in World War II were anti-fascist. They certainly weren't all Marxist. So no, I disagree fundamentally. Granny, I already addressed. Brevity. Antifa is simply anti-fascist. Yeah, I agree. Where did Marxism kill 100 million people? Conundrum lists off Ukraine under Lenin, Mao and his death camps, Pol Pot and Karl Marx. You can be in favor of like communism without being in favor of authoritarianism. I'm personally not a communist, but those two things are separate. Totalitarian and communist don't necessarily have to go together any more than capitalist and fascist. There are a lot of shades of gray here. Capitalism only sounds good on paper, but doesn't work in reality, from Mystical Hedgehog. And Mystical Hedgehog, who was that? That was Fisty. I think capitalism can apply to certain industries and situations. There are others where the model just does not fit worth a damn. If you have the time to make an informed, educated decision between products and the ability to make an informed, as you have access to multiple products, then I think capitalism can function, provided you have a decent safety net to keep people from starving to death. Do I think there are instances where capitalism gets broken or does not work? Absolutely. Fire departments is an easy example, right? Nobody makes informed, educated decisions on which fire department they're going to call when their house is burning down. They're not going to go cross-shop 5 different fire departments. So we got rid of for-profit fire departments for a reason. I would argue medicine falls under the same thing. If you're having a heart attack, you're not calling 5 different ERs price shopping and comparing which surgeon has the most stars on Yelp or on Google. So, but do I think that like eliminates all forms of capitalism? No, I think capitalism is good at driving innovation. I think capitalism is good at lowering prices when people have the option to cross shop. There's a fundamental difference between, which set of Cheerios do I want to buy when I'm walking through the grocery store and who do I want to operate on my heart. So what Allied researchers that injected pathogens into black soldiers during the Tuskegee syphilis experiments to investigate the virus technically be considered anti-fascist, from Ironword? If they were against fascism, sure. I mean, that fascism answers like one thing on one point. It doesn't like encompass some kind of worldview that I'm aware of. You can have good and bad Antifa, would be my point. Lenin called people who espouse socialism without it leading to authoritarian communism useful idiots. Okay. Sure, Lenin can say that. I can fundamentally disagree with Lenin. The fact that, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Germany, the United Kingdom, South Korea, Japan, etc., all have socialized medicine, like what, 34 out of 35 democracies in this, world, Canada, all have some form of socialized medicine, and none of them are Leninist, kind of proves my point and defeats yours. You're saying that all socialist policies have to go into Marxist, Leninist, communism, authoritarianism, totalitarianism, and that's demonstrably false. Not saying you're an idiot, because obviously you are not. I appreciate that conundrum. Can we even define fascism? Because many would call Allied forces and the thinking of the time fascistic. Paleogenic ultranationalism. Basically, you're going to tie back into some form of race or blood. There was a time in the past when our people, us, whoever that us is defined as, were great. There's a distant time in our past where we were great. And we are going to get back to that. Because our country is the best. And nobody else is ever close to it. Nobody else can even come close to it. So you have to be loyal to our country above everything else. And the problems, we have to get back to some form of purity. That would be a fascist thing in a nutshell. That isn't how many define fascism. Umberto Eco would employ a different criteria. Umberto Eco points out, I believe it's 14 points that help you identify whether you're living in a fascist society or if a society is fascist. But paleogenic ultranationalism is the shortest definition of fascism I've seen. Very succinct. Now, there's plenty of other definitions you can go with. It's the real definition, just not the reactionary version you're used to. I'm not sure whether you're discussing with Ironword or you're discussing with me, Mystical. The United States is a fascist country. I disagree with that. Do I think there are some people who hold fascist views that live in the United States? Certainly. I don't think the entire country is fascist. And just an FYI, everybody, we are 13 minutes over my cutoff, and I have got to go take care of the kiddo and the girlfriend are going to need my attention. So we got about 5 minutes left, and then we'll run the exit video. Again, everybody, if you're enjoying the content, you are more than welcome to follow me. If there's anything you want to send me source material wise, you can go to the website, www.theleftspeaks.com. You can email it to me. You can message it to me on Facebook, whatever source it is that you want. If I have the chance, I will run through it, and then we will address it next week. What Marx understood is that once people realize that people can vote for free things, their desire for those free things will not cease. As more free things are voted for, education, healthcare, universal basic income, it will require more taxation and the destruction of the bourgeoisie. This will cause the conflict that Marx called for and will eventually lead to Marxist utopia Karl Marx called for. Again, 34 out of 35 democracies in the world have universal socialized healthcare. We're the one without. So I don't know what kind of timeline you're looking at. But they're existing just fine. And communism as an economic system is separate from authoritarian, totalitarian, we're going to crush everything underneath us states. Those two things do not necessarily have to go together. You can vote to entirely get rid of capitalism and still not be an authoritarian state. You could have one where it's, everybody votes on whatever programs all the time. And by definition, that's not totalitarian. What else do you label a country that has concentration camps as? Germany, prior to Hitler's rise to power, had concentration camps under the Weimar Republic. Under I believe it was Social Democrat administration that later got shut down. Like I said, you can have fascist individuals and you can have some fascist policies without being a fascist state. Do I think the camps on the border with the kids in the cages need to go away, be resolved? Absolutely. Needs to be resolved yesterday, 2 years ago? Yes, absolutely. Do not mistake my position. Do I think that one individual thing is going to make you a fascist state? No, I do not. That is what Venezuela did in 1992. They voted in a communist, but it has since turned into a totalitarian state. I do not disagree. However, it does absolutely nothing to address the other 34 countries I have pointed out. Show me where Canada has become a totalitarian state. Show me where Denmark has become a totalitarian state. Again, you can point to tons of examples where it has happened. I am pointing to lots of examples where it has not. You are acting as if it is an absolute, whereas it has to happen. You're committing what's called a black swan fallacy. I've never seen a black swan, therefore it can't exist. In this case, it's even worse. We have plenty of black swans, right? You have plenty of states that have not become totalitarian states that have some more socialist policies than we do. You don't get to ignore those. It's a confirmation bias. So basically, you need utopian cosmopolitans to show the right, the template of fascism. Ironword, I'm not sure who you're referring to, so I don't know exactly how to address that. I'm not sure if there's a question in there somewhere. If you're referring to me, I don't think I'm a utopian or a cosmopolitan. I mean, I guess I do live in a big city now, but I grew up in a small town with one stoplight and a corner grocery store that was also the butcher shop and everything else. Your argument that it hasn't happened yet does not mean that Marx is wrong. I can argue that every one of these countries are following the trends. They are becoming more and more socialist, which shows that they are going down the path from conundrum. Yes, you can. But it hasn't happened yet, and you cannot prove that it will. Again, if we can imagine a society where everybody votes on everybody getting everything for free, and there's not a single person in charge, it's not a totalitarian, authoritarian state. And since I can imagine that reality, we'll pretend none of the other ones exist. That the other 34 democracies that have more socialist tendencies than we do, we'll pretend none of them exist. It's still a black swan fallacy. The only swans I've seen are white. Therefore, a black swan can't exist. Until we went to Australia and saw a black one. The only communist governments we've seen all go authoritarian, all go totalitarian, therefore one that doesn't can't exist. It's the same argument you're making, and it's a fallacy for a reason. You can't prove it. And like I said, that's even ignoring the other 34 examples I've provided you with. So you can't prove you're right. You need to go back and find a way to prove that you're correct. Oh, my Weimar example? My Weimar example is that the Social Democrats back there made a mistake, and then somebody came in, I think it was a Social Democrat, it may have been a communist, don't hold me to it, it's been a while, but it was a female member of their Reichstag came in and inspected the camps, I think it was 2 years later, and said, hey, these conditions are shit, and this is a problem, and then there was a big hubbub in the Reichstag about it, with them all losing their minds and saying, fighting back and forth over whether it was a good thing or whether it was a bad thing and whether it needed to be done or not. And ultimately the camps were disbanded, right? They got rid of them. And then the Nazis came in several years later and built them back up, and we know what happened there. So yeah, I think they need to be disbanded. Don't get me wrong. Okay. But again, one thing doesn't make everything else true. All right, guys, 5 more minutes. Get it in. And again, if you haven't followed, I appreciate it. And for the next show, because we're wrapping up for today, everybody is always more than welcome to call in. The number is toll free. There are 5 to 10 open lines at any given time. If you're on hold, you still hear the audio, so you can still hear what is being said. And you are more than welcome to call in. Also, if you happen to agree with me and your, conservative crazy uncle does not, he is more than welcome to call in. I'm not trying to duck any arguments here. If I'm wrong, I want to know it. And we should all be able to talk back and forth in pursuit of truth and pursuit of fact, because that makes our country better. Conundrum, I appreciate you dropping by. I'm not going to agree with the hook 'em horns. Go LSU, baby. All right, chat seems to have died down for a minute. So on this note, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. For all you Trump supporters out there, I hope you can take a joke. For all the rest of you, enjoy the song. Have a good day, everybody. See you next Sunday. The time for silence is over.
Bye-bye, Donnie, your time is up, so you can take your lies and you can go get fucked. The people spoke and they spoke by mail, so pack your shit, cause it's time to bail. Sorry, buddy, but you lost it, mate, and like everything true, you'll call it fake. But who'd have thought you'd be such a wussy when America grabbed you by the pussy and threw you out after just one term, cause they finally realised that you're a germ. And COVID's not the only thing you spread, like lies, fear, hate, confusion and dread. And you told your own voters not to vote by mail in a global pandemic, and that was your fail. So shut up, Donnie, and practice what you preach. Have some dignity and give your concession speech. Just tell everyone it's a conspiracy. Blame your fall on American democracy. Make up excuses and a million reasons from your shitty press conference at the Four Seasons. Get out there and go tell more lies. Do what you do best and propagandize. No one's expecting you to be apologetic, but let me explain it using your logic. See, you find more COVID when you do more tests, and you find more results when more votes get read. It's crazy, but that's how counting works. I can show you if you want to share your tax returns. You'll be fine, old mate. You survived impeachment. You survived coronavirus by injecting disinfectant. You've had 6 bankruptcies and 2 divorces, 200 days of tax paid golf and golf courses. You survived the guilt of putting kids in cages and 26 sexual misconduct accusations. You've only got like 4,000 active lawsuits, so man up, Donnie, and hang up the boots. Fake news, fake hair, fake tan, fake smiles, fake offshore accounts in the Cayman Isles. You're a fake president with a fake first lady who's gonna take half of your fake ass money. And you finally succeeded in building your wall around the White House, and it's 10 feet tall. For someone who hates lockdown as much as you do, you were quick to lock yourself down in there, dude. Fake friends who used you to climb the ladder, and fake everything else that no longer matters. Fake supporters who piss on homeless people. You're the sworn enemy of the American eagle, cause you tried to fool the world with no regret, and you're in $900 million debt. On the down low, if you know what I mean, like your old mate, Jeffrey Epstein. Nah, you'll be fine, you've told 20,000 lies and 230,000 people have died, just like Daddy's money gave you your start. Daddy Bannon will give you a job at Breitbart, cause no one believes your bullshit rules, cause you're doing what you said you'd do when you lose. So see ya, buddy, you gave it a crack, and now even Fox News hasn't got your back. So sorry, old chum, but you're out of tricks, and you can suck 75 million dicks. The people voted someone else was hired, so sorry to say it, cunt, but you're fired.
Join me every Sunday afternoon for a new show where common citizens, you and I together, discuss with each other issues of today, where we demand proof and evidence is required, where we seek the truth and will not be silent. Join me this coming Sunday afternoon and take part in America's oldest and most honored tradition.